All right. Very good.
Good morning.
Well, good morning. Happy Thursday, everybody.
It is finally cold.
It is cold
in Alabama.
So now we're inside.
So I got long sleeves. Yes.
We thought about doing it outside, but it was just a little too
much.
A little too frigid to be sitting out there. We would
You'd be distracted by all the steam coming out of our mouth.
There was a lot of steam coming out of. I sat out there for a little bit this morning, and there was a lot of breath that could be seen.
Yes. So this is better.
So yeah.
Oh
So cool.
man, how is everybody? It's so good to see you guys.
Yeah.
And just be here, and Thursday morning we get to give you guys just a few minutes of added value to your families and added value to your walk with the Lord and all of that. So we just love that.
And we are looking and just to how to get back to more frequency of doing these, 4 days a week. So those things are working out just as we try again. And I mean, with that kind of stuff, just in your own life, you got things that you want to do, like we want to do these videos with you. Just don't give up.
That's right.
And just, keep marching forward and keep doing a little bit here and a little bit there.
Yep.
And I think many times, we've learned this over the years from different Christians, especially one of our favorites is Joel Salatin, who is a very strong believing farmer. And he talked about, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly when you get started. And then
that messed with my head when I first heard it. And then I'm like, you know what? Yeah.
That's right.
Because you just keep at it.
You just keep going.
Yeah.
And then the same thing, we actually had a chance to meet him at a Mother Earth News fair, as he called it, a beaded, bearded, braless hippie fair. And so,
up in the Washington
area when we lived in Canada, and we had just started keeping bees. And that winter, I think all the bees experienced colony collapse or something. They died anyway. The hive.
Kids were so crestfallen. They were like, all the bees died.
And so we happened to meet him. Not shortly thereafter, all the bees had died, and I think it was Sophia or somebody who was my primary bee helper at the time. Mr. Joel, our bees did this. He says, well, don't give up. Start over. Try again. Get some more. And don't quit. And I always remember that whole, that is such a great way. You have something you want to accomplish, something you want to do. I think we can, I think the same thing might have been Joel Salatin, I don't know, or somebody else I read that, that perfectionism is the mother of procrastination.
Yeah.
Right? And many times I run into so many people, especially believers, because we do have instruction to do things excellently.
Yes.
And to do things well from Scripture, to not do things half-heartedly. But at the same time, I think there's been a lot of pressure applied to that. And I met so many people that they got books they don't write, they got shows like this they don't do. They got ministries they won't start. They got things they won't do.
Languages they won't speak.
Because it's not perfect. And they're like, well, I don't want to go out there until it's perfect. And the thing is it will never begin perfect.
No.
It'll never, and even...
You just got to get started.
And even in its processing, as you can improve and should improve, but it will never be... perfect. And so that's where we've learned a little saying that and this will kind of segue into what we've taught the kids, that excellence is doing the best I can with what I have where I'm at.
Yeah.
And that is excellence.
Yes.
Excellence isn't comparing myself to what somebody else is doing, because they're probably doing the best they can with where they are, where they're at, what they have on hand. And it just happens to be more than you got or I got.
They might just be a little bit further ahead
down the
road, right?
Right.
So we can't compare our today
to their
10 years down the road, because that'll be really sad.
So it's helped us, but that's excellence. So just start, begin where you are with what you got, do the best you can with what you got where you are, and then just consistently and continually improve.
That's right.
Right, and just keep moving forward. So with that, we've launched the book, and now that see if there's some folks in it. Did we hit comments at all on there? So
there's comments.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you're there, let us know and stuff. Again, I know we're getting restarted and rebooted on this, so it's not as habitual as it was when we did it last year. But we're getting back to that again,
Yes.
doing the best we can.
Yes.
Where we are with what we got. But was talking about to somebody this week, a young mama, about the book. She was asking, how did our book thing go over the weekend, which went very well, by the way.
Yes.
Thank all of y'all that were able to come out, and
Yes.
for everyone that checked in that couldn't make it and asked how it went, and really just thank you for everyone who's bought a copy so far, everyone who has shown an interest in what we're doing. Just thank you for being a part of our community and what we believe God is wanting us to do to serve you all. But I asked her a question. I said, what could we help you with? Because she's a young mama. She's got a little girl, think 4-ish, somewhere in there, and then baby number 2 on the way, coming in the early parts of the new year. So she was like, well, how can we...
I love new babies.
Yeah, how can we have... Because they're a believing family, like many of us are. They're a Christian family, and so they were like, well, how can we talk about God in a way now, even though our daughter is 3, 4, she's little, and again, this mama was wise. She said, now I don't necessarily think she's ready to accept the Lord,
right?
Because she's just little, she's just still growing, and stuff. But how can we begin the conversation? And I thought that was just a great question. So I thought we'd address some of what I shared with her in conversation. We'll address it here with you guys, and I guess to start, and we'll kind of hit multiple points of this. To start is just begin. Again, back
Just
to even what we
knowing
were
that
saying.
you need to
Yeah.
is
Huge.
A lot of parents don't think that they're they don't understand. And they think, they hear stuff at church, right? They hear it in the Christian songs that I play on the radio, right? That's enough.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that it's more a culture and a habit that you're wanting to create in the home of talking about God and talking about life from a Christian worldview.
Yeah.
That's what you're really going after.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point, Sam. I mean, let's talk about this. And I'm looking at our time, this may have to be a 2-parter, just to unpack it well. But, because I think one of it is to realize what is that we read? You read an article years ago that talked about living a one-piece life.
Oh, yes.
And
Ann Voskamp did and I think it was like a blog post or something.
You think
it just
you can
really
find
struck
it and
me.
post it down
I
there?
will try.
Okay. That was a number of years ago, so it may not be out there anymore. I don't know. That was a long
time
15 years ago now.
No, or more.
And so, but in this, I think what I loved is and not to take away from it, but the lady talked about what was like quilting. They were quilters, and she talked about one of the most, I don't know if it was difficult or if it was unique quilts to make was a one-piece quilt. Not many of us know, if you've, in the South, quilts are fairly popular. Everybody's probably got a quilt from your grandma, and it's normally like pieces of material, little patches or squares or triangles, all stitched together in a design to make a pretty quilt, and they're all beautiful. But this lady said, but to make a one-piece quilt, where you still can see design that's probably stitched in, but it's one solid piece of material. It's not a conglomeration, or I don't know what the right word would be, of little pieces. But she likened in that thing, she likened that to many of our Christian lives, or our faith lives, is most of us,
fragmented.
We're compartmentalized.
Yes.
That when we're building our life, we've got our little patch of the family patch, the little piece that represents family, and then the little piece that represents work, and then another little piece that represents probably hobbies or friendships, and then
another piece it's like entertainment, therefore like movies and music, and then outside activities outside of the home and work. And then even the church piece, or the faith piece, is a piece of the quilt. But I liked what the lady said in the article she talked about, though. But really,
we don't live that way as Christ followers, or we put it this way, we shouldn't live that way as Christ followers, that our lives and our faith are not compartmentalized. They're not little patches of...
That's right.
Right, they're not little, well, I've got this over here.
She was talking about the division between the secular and the holy. And how we look at certain things like the entertainment and our music and some of our hobbies and work. Well, that's just all secular, because church is the one that's like holy, and my prayer time in the mornings, that's holy, but everything else is kind of just secular because it's out there in the world and it's, you know, whatever. And she's like, no, actually it's all holy.
Yeah.
Because it's your life, right?
Well, and I would say, and it's your faith. Right? So it's our faith. And so let me say it, not our faith, what we believe, and even to define that as what we, well, man, there's so much my brain goes, I'm trying, I'm coming, hey, we're getting this all. She gets so frustrated. She's like, efficiency.
We already talked about what we wanted to talk about.
We're getting there. We're going to talk about it.
It's going to take a whole other...
Is it going to take a whole other thing? But that's, hey, but our lovely friends will come back.
There you go. Okay. We do need to lay the groundwork.
Well,
because
and that's
it's important to have the right backdrop.
Yeah.
Before you even understand...
The house.
The house.
Well, that's what you hear us say a lot of time on this, and it's good to have this. And that's why that's why we appreciate questions and things asked, like was asked by this young mama, and that's what's making me think is because, you know, we've been talking about family for now probably almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
Since we've had Sophia and it began and we started. And so sometimes I think for us that are maybe a little bit further down the road than say this young mama, we're coming at it as 20 years worth of blah, you know, so we just go and you have to,
no, you got to back it up.
Sometimes you have to stop and go and even for us to remember, oh wow, no, this is where that came from.
Yes.
This is where that originated. This is where, and let me just kind of think myself through this. But so saying all this to talk about as a foundation, because we can talk about, and will in the coming episode, talk about, well, what are some of the things we can do to talk about Jesus with our littles, or to talk about Jesus when they're small, and we want to come to that. But I think we have to back up and say it begins with the realization that faith, what we believe, must be part of our whole life. And I think the challenge that we've created in the church world is what we were saying is, for so many of us, faith is something we do at a specific place, at a specific time. We do it at church. We do it on Sunday mornings or Wednesday nights, which again, we should do those too. We should have those times. But if we're not careful, we can think of, well, that's the compartment. That's where the God stuff happens, right? And so I jokingly say many times what we try to do in the church world, and I think sometimes why we don't serve our people very well, is we've turned our church services into a bit of a Swiss Army knife. Right? Now, I love Swiss Army knives, and I love multi-tools. If y'all know me at all, I have a whole massive collection of them. And they're fun to carry, and they come in hand. I mean, kids and I are watching the new MacGyver a little bit, so it's fun to see that old show resurrected, and he's got a Swiss Army knife and he's doing all this stuff, and that's cool. But you can't build a house with a Swiss Army knife, right? You know, I mean, it's handy to have, it's good to have when you need it, and there's a place for it, but it's limited. And church, what we call going to church, is like that. And many times in the church world, I think we've turned the church into a Swiss Army knife, where we're trying to shove all of these spiritual components into one apparatus. And then we say, now, go build your whole life with this.
Right. No.
Go build your home here with a Swiss Army knife. And we just can't, because faith is integral to our whole being.
That's right.
Faith is integral to living. And faith, and here's the part that's again, I've said this for years, this is the indicting part. And we are all genuinely practicing what we actually believe all the time anyway.
Right. We're living it out.
We are living what we actually believe because we can't help it.
I didn't like that.
I still don't like that. I mean,
it's one of those truths is like, ow. So if you felt that when we said it, know that we're right there with you,
hey,
okay? Because I have to re-examine all kinds of things that I'm like, oh, I really do believe what I'm living out in that area. Then I gotta go back and really like dig this up because I want different results. And I really want to live a different way in this particular area.
Yeah.
So I have to go after it intentionally.
Yeah. Well, and so with that is to realize that as we talk about faith at home, as we begin to talk about what we believe, we're talking about it with the bigger purpose. Man, the bigger purpose isn't just how do I talk about it so I can talk about it. The biggest purpose is how do I talk about it so that it becomes what I actually live.
Right.
And see, and that's faith. Otherwise, what we have is just our own version of quote unquote religion, even if that religion is true. And I think that's some of the things because, in our circles, especially, many of you run in the same circles, there's the whole, it's not about religion, it's about relationship. And we have all these Christianese catchphrases that we throw out there. But I think we forget sometimes that the thing is that what makes religion is the compartmentalization. That I believe a certain set of things when I'm with a certain group of people, or when I'm in a certain setting, or when the brown smelly stuff of life hits the ventilation unit, all of a sudden I need to get over here and believe some stuff. See, that's religion. If it's not allowed to have impact into every aspect of life, then it's not faith, it's religion.
Right.
And so when we talk about this and talking about it with our family, where we're trying, and especially all of us who, again, like we are here in Alabama, we growing up in the Bible Belt, our kids are growing up in the Bible Belt, and what a privilege it is to have such a strong and rich Christian heritage of things. The challenge can be is like the Jews who had a strong thing, is if you're not careful, it can just be at the certain, again, that was the challenge Jesus always talked to the Jewish people about is well, you don't actually believe what you're supposed to believe. You're religious. You keep the right days.
Now you've made it into a tradition. So we have to do this and this and this and this and this. And you've forgotten the actual power of God manifesting and transforming your life.
Yeah.
Right? And so that, as a mom and as somebody who tries to systematize everything so that we do get it all in one day, that can be a danger where, no, we have to do this and we have to do that. Okay, there is certain things, well, yeah, absolutely, it's going to have to be translated into action.
Yeah.
But if we turn it into a tradition that now is devoid of the transforming power of God, now we we need to make sure that we keep the heart of the matter in front of us constantly.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, and what's like, again, you were saying that with, I was just thinking of that story of, Jesus talking to the Pharisees about tithing as an example.
Yeah.
And he says, well, man, y'all go out in the garden and y'all count all the leaves. You're going down the plant and you're counting that's some serious faithfulness. That's some serious dedication. And he says, you're there picking every 10th leaf and setting it aside. And you were on it, buddy. He says, but you forgot the actual heart of the tithe, which was mercy and compassion and justice. And
I love what he says. He goes, so do both.
Do both. He doesn't say stop tithing because he says, no, do both. Remember that this religious activity
It's just the vehicle.
Is just the vehicle for compassion and mercy, and it should be in your whole life. It shouldn't just be in the action. Right, so even remembering that as we talk to our family, and we'll kind of land the plane on this, and we'll need to pick up sooner
I'm
than
going to
later.
give you one practical application as soon as he's done with this, just to leave you with one practical thing.
Has
welcome.
it been practical since I thought I've shared? Let me know if I've been practical. I mean, she's but is. Well, here's my practical piece, because I learned, and then here's her. Is this is no? Who was it? We were listening to years ago. We went to a homeschooling type thing, and something that stuck out to me from the father who was teaching. I think it was the Maxwells, or anyway. But when we were in Washington that one time, we went. But anyway, but he said this. Whoever it was, and he said this. He was asking somebody asked him the question. Well, how do you share your convictions, or how do you share your faith with your children? And his opening thought just hit me right between the eyes, and it stuck with me all these years. He goes, well, number one, make sure they're your convictions.
Yeah.
Make sure it's your faith. And he says, because many times what we do is we're sharing what we know is the party line convictions based on our church preference, denomination, whatever you want to call it, but they're not actually our convictions. They're not actually our faith. It's not actually, we know it's what we're supposed to say.
Yeah.
It's know what we're supposed to believe that. So I'm going to share with you what we're supposed to believe, but I don't really believe it.
Yeah.
And he goes, and that will fail. He says, your best thing to do is to take time, and he was talking to a room full of dads, to take time, dads, and to look at yourself and to go, what do I believe? And I'm going to share with my kids what I believe.
Yeah.
And then the indictment for us as dads is to go, okay, well, now with the Bible, to look back and go, okay, well, what I believe, can I back up what I believe with Scripture?
Yeah.
So now your practical point.
And since we're talking about starting a culture in your home, do you and your spouse talk about what you believe?
That's good.
Right? Because if you don't, it will feel really awkward to talk to your kids, but not here. Whereas everything that we do here, there's an outflow that organically passes on to talking to the kids about it.
Yeah.
Then they see you're modeling for them that they see you, this is a normal thing. This is what you do. This is how we talk. This is what we discuss. And then when they grow up, they're going to remember that and they're going to do that with their, with their spouse.
Yeah.
And so know that, like, for example, Brad and I we might read different books about our spiritual walk or spiritual growth, and then we discuss them.
Yeah.
So like I'll read one book and he'll read something completely different, because then we can divide and conquer, to be really honest. And so then hey, I'm reading this here and I highlighted it. I really want to talk about it with you. So then you can read it out loud. And then the best place to do that is at the dinner table. And so that's just one practical thing that, okay, we're going to actually, once we're all served and seated and now we're eating, let's talk about, what have you been reading? What have I been reading? What has the Holy Spirit been highlighting to you about what you read? How about me? And just back and forth. And then little by little, you'll realize that is now more organic.
Yeah.
So that's one practical place to start.
Yeah.
And then when we get back on here,
and
we will expound a little bit on more practical things that we wanted to say.
We will, huh?
That I wanted to say.
Yeah, know her. So it's well. This is why this is awesome.
Yes.
Because people have to know, and my part is they have to know where we're coming from.
Yes.
And then your part is and tell the people what to do, please.
Bottom line it.
So anyway, that's why we're together. So hey, well, let's go ahead and do this. I'm gonna go. Let's commit. Let's come back tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
At 7:30, because it was there, and we'll go in, and we want to get back to doing this more regularly with you guys. That is truly growing again in our heart, and so we're actively setting schedules and doing stuff to to be present here as much as we can. So we can in the morning because of my work schedule. So let's just go ahead and commit to our audience that will come back tomorrow at 7:30, and we'll pick this up, this conversation. But until then, just again, thank y'all. Please check out the new webpage that Selena worked so hard on, thehollemans.com. She'll put a link in there. If you can find the One Piece Life thing, if we can. No promises on that one. Put that up there. And then, again, on the YouTube side, if you haven't done it already, please subscribe and hit the little bell notification. Once we get to, like, I think it's 1,000 subscribers and some mystical number of...
4,000 hours of views.
Oh, 4,000. Oh, wow. Okay, so we got
viewed hours.
Viewed hours. And it could be pieces, right? It could be, so they add it up. But then we can go live on YouTube. We really want to get to the place where we're just shifting everything to YouTube and then sharing with Facebook.
Absolutely.
Is kind of
streamlining it, you guys.
Is where we want to go. And so if you'll help us with that, and then as always, if this in any way has blessed you or you think it would bless somebody else, please do share it out there. Put it out there. It would be awesome. And we love you guys. And we will be back tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.